Welcome to the 7th presentation and writing tips lecture in the series of lectures that guide us through the process of writing a thesis and giving a presentation. Today we will focus on a very particular task, which is how to write an abstract. And this is a very common task as a scientist, and but it's very difficult in the beginning. So therefore it's good to have a separate lecture on this. And the main reason for why it's so difficult is that you should summarize the whole project, all the steps, in around 200 words. So you should have introduction, you should have method, you should have discussion, you should have results, zooming out, all of these in 200 words. So this is why it's so difficult. Again, this is free to use as long as you say where it's from. It's part of a course, and we are at the end of the CDIO course. So, as I said, the structure of an abstract is very, very similar to the structure of the entire report, the entire paper. You can actually consider the abstract as a sort of stand-alone thing, which you can read without having the report. And when you do the report or the paper, you ignore the fact that the abstract exists. This is the most common case, and it's the case if you do a bachelor thesis or a master thesis or most type of scientific papers. That the abstract is a sort of standalone thing, which is like an entire paper is just miniaturized. So that means that the structure starts with a sort of generally agreed upon important goal, like cancer is important or something like this. And then you start to zoom in more and more. Cancer has to do with blah, 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 and this has to do with blah, 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 and recently you have discovered this important thing, but you haven't done something. And then when you come up with this thing that seems like the next logical step to understand cancer, then you say that now we are doing this, understanding this next important step. And then when you say what you did, you sort of state what did you come up with? What are the main conclusions? And here maybe you give some numbers, and here you can start to get technical. And then you start to zoom out again. So you sort of go back to the general level. So maybe you even end with all in all this might open the door to understand this and this, which eventually might lead to improved treatment of cancer, something like that. So that's the general structure, and now let's just have a look at two other people saying the same thing. The first is one of the most important persons for a PhD student or a scientist to survive, phdcomic. If you're not a scientist, maybe you haven't seen this before, but this is really good comedy on the life of a scientist. You can find many of them at phdcomics.com. And here they say how to write an abstract. And here we have written an abstract. This is an abstract if you have a new method. Then this is a sort of generic abstract. You can just fill in the blanks and you can do any abstract. And the first thing you should say is sort of introduction to what you did. This paper presents, and then you need to say some synonym for new, for, and then you fill in some sciencey verb that does something which is quite technical. And then using some method you didn't invent, you find some values for this thing that you did, and this has some uncertainty. And then you say that this method is good because something, and it's certainly better than this other method that is published by Loser et al. And then you start to zoom out. The work presented here has profound implications for future studies of, and then it's usually some buzzword which is very hot at the moment, and it might even one day help to solve some supreme sociological concern. And then keywords is something that you usually have also here, which is, and then it should be these buzzwords again. So this sort of shows slightly different structure, but the basic idea is the same. So writing abstract, as you see here, is very, very short, but the structure is relatively the same all the time. You exchange some minor things. You start with some zoomed out thing. You zoom in on what you did and why you did it, and you show that you are better than somebody else, and then you zoom out again and say that this will help world peace or something like this. And on a more slightly serious note, let's have a look at Nature, which is, as most of you know, the journal which is, together with Science and Cell maybe, the most high-ranked journal. So they have the following picture on their homepage as a guide for writing something that is sort of like an abstract. So Nature papers are very short, and they have actually, as one of the very, very few journals, they have built in the abstract into the paper. So the first paragraph in the paper, which is maybe only 2 pages, even though it's 7 years of work or something like this, is only 2 pages or 3 pages. So it's really, really compact, and this is why they have introduced it. But essentially it's like an abstract, so we can look at it and we can see the structure and we can see that this is how we can write an abstract. So they give very clear instructions for how to write it, this first sentence or the abstract, or this first paragraph, which is the abstract paragraph. So they say that you should start with 1 or 2 sentences that just provides a basic introduction to the field, which is comprehensible to a scientist in any discipline. And here they write, during cell division, mitotic spindles are assembled by microtubule-based motor proteins. For my taste, this is a little bit too technical already. But then they say, in blue here, that then you start to zoom in. 2 or 3 sentences of more detailed background. So it's still background, it's still things that has been done, things that sort of people know. Here you start to get a little bit more technical. You might already here lose some people. So here you start to say the bipolar organization of spindles is essential for proper segregation in chromosomes, blah, 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 blah. And then you start to talk about hypotheses, that there are 2 hypotheses. Hypotheses for bipolar spindle formation include the push-pull mitotic muscle spindle, in which kinesis 5 and opposing motor proteins act between overlapping microtubules. So here this is sort of a background, introducing some technical words and zooming in on the thing that you need to write the however sentence. So the sentence that starts with however is usually the sentence that says, this is as far as we have gone, but we haven't done this. So the however word is sort of where the background ends and you say this is where we haven't gotten further. However, the precise roles of this kinesin 5, and then here it's important that you have introduced this kinesin 5 and what it is and how it relates to some things. So you need to have zoomed in here to this kinesin 5 in order to say the however sentence. However, the precise roles of kinesin 5 during this process are unknown. So this basically says that, okay, we know that this is important for this thing, but we don't know this. And then you start a sentence. This basically says, here we show. So this is the 1 sentence summary of what we show. Which if you write a report or a paper, this might actually be the sort of title of the paper. And then that's 1 sentence here, which we have here in deep purple. And then in a more reddish purple, they say that you should have 2 or 3 sentences that sort of fills in more details. So how, and this is sort of the discussion section. So how does this reveals to what was thought to be the case previously, and how do you sort of add to previous knowledge? So here you've already started to zoom out a little bit, add in relation to what has been known and so on. And then you just keep zooming out. So here in this weird blue color, 1 or 2 sentences that put the results into a more general context. And then you maybe say something, our results demonstrate how members are likely to function, blah, blah, blah. And then they say you can, if you want, you can sort of add 2 or 3 sentences that puts it into an even broader perspective. And here we can just see that, looking at some keywords, that we anticipate. This already says that this is sort of looking into the future. What can this lead to? And this can lead to some sophisticated in vitro models, and it might lead to how to understand the individual and combined action of these mitotic motors. And then in the final sentence, furthermore, you come to sort of some really supreme sociological concerns. You come to cancer, which this might help to understand cancer, because this is something that you try to understand in cancer. So if you're not convinced, and if you haven't understood things for quite a while here, you sort of are reminded, okay, this might actually solve cancer. Okay, so we want to publish this, or this is probably important. So here you see they have a space restriction. It should be under 200 words if you don't have these 3 last sentences, and it should be around 250 at the most if you have them. So it's usually around there that it lies. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less, but this is around how many words you have to write an abstract, which should summarize the entire project, starting with the introduction, zooming into the however sentence, then the we found sentence, the sort of here we show, and then zooming out. How does this relate to other things? And we anticipate these kind of sentences. And then sort of anti-cancer or something like this in the very end. So in that sense, again, it's only a minor thing in the middle here, which actually is the results, which actually contains what you actually did. And most of this is either why it's the next logical step and why it's sort of important, and again, how it relates to what other did and why it's important, what it might lead to. So you sort of start very general, you zoom into what you did, say what you did, and then you start to zoom out. So it's exactly like in report, but in 200 words. So that's all I have to say right now about the abstract.